Hi guys, and welcome back. In this video I'll be showing you how to configure a lightweight access point and wireless LAN controller. First thing first, we are going to add components to our network. What we are going to need is a management PC. This is the PC we use to configure the wireless access point. Then we are going to need a server. This is what's going to dish out DHCP addresses to our devices on the network, since there could be a lot of devices on these types of networks. So we rely on a DHCP server for that. We are going to add a switch. This is the device that brings it all together. So all the devices end up connecting to the switch. And we need the wireless devices. First of all, is going to be the wireless LAN controller. I'm going to go with the 3504 Cisco 3504 wireless LAN controller, and also the 3702i, which is the access point, the lightweight access point. And I will also add the wireless end devices, which in this case I will make a laptop. Let's make it 2 laptops. This blue rectangle represents our finance network. Now we are going to have 2 devices on that floor. And now I am going to go ahead and connect all these devices up. So this will be our LAN controller addressing information, and this will be our DHCP configuration information. Now I will go ahead and connect everything up. As you can see, the switch acts as more like a centralized point of connection for all these devices. Now, the first thing I will do is to power up the AP. As you can see, it has a red down pointing arrow. The reason for that is because it needs an external source of power. This is what our AP looks like from, this is the back view. And as you can see down here, we have an adapter or the power source, right? You simply just drag it to that pinhole where you connect, and this will power on the device. As you can see, the LED has now changed to an upward pointing arrow and it's green. So the first device that I will configure is the DHCP server. We will use the information we have to configure the server. So the first thing we do is to assign the IP address to the device. By the way, the entire network is going to be a 192.168.1.0 network. It's a /24. So this is the network IP address. So all the devices should match this network, right? So this is the network. We'll just put it down here for now. Now, the IP address of the DHCP server is crucial to match the network IP address. So we're going to give it a static IP address of 192.168.1. I'll give it a 1.4. So that's what I will do. I'll give it a 0.4. And then I'll make the default gateway a 0.1. There's no real need for the DNS server in this case, so I'm not going to put it in. We have more information that we need to put in on our server, and this is the DHCP information. So these are part of the services. It has nothing to do with the IP addressing of the server itself. So we are done with the IP addressing. We're going to close out. Now we go to services. So the services we are looking for is the DHCP services, the DHCP version 4, not the version 6. So the version 4 will be this one. Now, I'm not going to change the pool name. I'll leave it as such, as server pool. I'm simply going to switch on the service. Now, this is where we are going to give the DHCP IP addressing to the network. So I want all the devices to have the same default gateway. So this is the default gateway. the 1.1, and I don't want to configure any DNS server IP address. That's fine. Then the start IP address, I want to start from 20, as you can see down here, and I want to end at 40. So our network will have 20 devices only. So I'm gonna give it 20 maximum users. So the highest IP address will be, actually it will be 40, it will be 39, but let's make it 21 so that it's a perfect 40. And then the next, I'm not interested in TFTP server. We will touch on this later on, but this is crucial. The WLC address, this is the address or the IP address of our wireless LAN controller, and we are gonna give it a 1.2 IP address. So it's 192.168.1.2. So that's very crucial. Without that, your APs will not communicate with your wireless LAN controller. So I'm going to maximize that page so that things look a little bit more clear. So I'm simply going to save here. As you can see, the information has changed from the default, and everything that I've added has been updated, right? So now I'm going to close out. We are done with the DHCP server. We are now going to configure the wireless LAN. This is a simple configuration, really. You don't do much here. All we do is, okay, if you want to look at the device itself, this is how it looks from the back or the front. I'm not sure if this is the back or the front, but this is where you connect all your cables. Now, the configuration done on this is simply the configurations on the management port. So we are going to give it the IP address of .2. We also choose that IP address. It doesn't have to be a .2. We chose it. I chose mine. You can choose yours if you want, but I chose mine to be a 1.2. As long as it doesn't conflict with the DNS server or the management PC, we are fine, or the default gateway. Now we are going to give it a default gateway, which is 192.168.1.1. There isn't much else we can do. Maybe if you want to rename it, you can rename it there, but there isn't much we can do on this device. So we close. We are done with that setup. However, to configure the device itself, we need to go to our management PC, but we need to first give our management PC an IP address, a static IP address. So we are going to type in 192.168.1.3. Now we're going to give it a default gateway, 192.168.1.1. Right, so all these devices are using the same default gateway. So if we had a router, that would be our way out of this network to the internet. So that will be our gateway. So I'm simply going to close, but I'll go back to the device again because now I want to set up the wireless LAN controller. Before I do that, let's look at our AP. Let's look at our AP. If you go to config and then you configure the DHCP, you will see that it picks the default gateway, and also it picks the wireless LAN controller IP address from this DHCP. It's not coming from this, it's coming from that. It's coming from this over here. This is where it gets it, wireless LAN address. So that's just something that maybe you might be aware of, because if you don't put in this IP address, this device will never find this, and for it to communicate with the wireless LAN, it needs that IP address. It has to have this IP address. So you can put this manually, but I advise using the DHCP server since we are going to be adding multiple access points on this network. Now that that is sorted, we are going to start configuring our wireless LAN controller using our management PC. So we're simply going to go to the desktop. This is our desktop. That's what it looks like. Now we're going to go to the web browser and then double click on the web browser, and then we're going to put in the IP address of our wireless LAN, which is a 1.2, and then we simply hit enter. Sometimes it takes a while to resolve. As you can see, the LEDs are flashing like crazy over here. It means that we have a connection. This is attempting to connect to the device. So if it's taking too long, you can simply fast forward here on this double arrow button on the bottom there, and now you can see we finally made it into our Cisco 3500 series wireless LAN controller. So now we're just gonna enter this information, the admin account. The admin name, I'll just type in admin, first small caps, and the password must consist of at least 6 characters, including uppercase, lowercase, and a number or a special character. And then click start. Now we are going to give it a system name. It can be any name, but I prefer to call it wireless LAN controller. I'm just going to move on and enter the management IP address. Now this is the same IP address as the wireless LAN controller, right? Now the subnet mask must match that of the network, which is a 255.255.255. We said it's a /24 network, and the default gateway must also match the default gateway we've been using for all the other devices. Now it will move to the next, which is create your wireless network. Right here we were setting up your controller. Now we are creating your wireless network. So I'm gonna call it, if you look here, this is a finance department, floor number 3, right? Finance department. So I'm going to call it Fin Wi-Fi. Let's call it Fin Wi-Fi, right? For finance Wi-Fi. We'll leave the security at a WPA2 personal, and then we're gonna put in a phrase. It has to be 8 characters. I'm gonna make it all numbers, all 1 through 8. So now we're gonna go next, and we're not gonna change any of this. Just gonna go next. So we are done. This is just to review and confirm and apply, right? So I'm just gonna apply. It says the system will reboot after these settings are applied. Click OK to apply these configurations, or click cancel to return to the setup wizard. I am done, so I'm just gonna click OK. So this thing, I find that it keeps, you know, this wheel here, it keeps going on forever. So it can help to maybe just double click twice or 3 times on the fast forward button and then close out, because if you want to wait for it, you might wait for it for the whole day. All right, so close out, but we have to go back into the management PC. All right, again, go back to our web browser. We're not done yet. So now we are going to put in back the same IP address, but you will note that something different happens. It doesn't allow us to log in now. That's because we have created an account, and once you create an account on a wireless LAN controller, it requires you to use a more secured connection or a more secure protocol to connect to it, and that protocol is the HTTPS. As you see up here, we only have HTTP, so you have to put in the S. That is the only way you can have access to the wireless LAN controller. So now you can see it allows us to log in. We are going to use the same credentials we created a couple of minutes ago, and we're going to use the same password as well. Remember, this is the password for the administrator. This is not the passphrase for the network. Now, as you can see, we are now on our dashboard. This is the dashboard for our wireless LAN controller. This is what it looks like. The colors, the red just means that these ports are not in use, they're not connected. This is the port that we are using currently to connect to our switch. It's that port over there, right? So that's the one we are connecting on. That's why it's green. I will make a video later on, like an overview of the wireless LAN controller dashboard. We'll go through each and every tab or menu on this thing. But for now, you can just have a look and just to see if you can try to understand certain things. For the sake of this exercise, I will continue with configuring the wireless LAN controller and the APs, right? But you might want to play around with this just to have a feel of how a wireless LAN controller dashboard looks like and how it behaves. So as you can see down here, it says we have a total of 1 access points that are being picked up on the system, and it's true, we only have 1 access point connected to our network, right? So we can see the details of that LAN or that AP. As you can see, it's lightweight access point 7, right? Keep that in mind, that number. So the first one is lightweight access point 7, and this is the IP address. So you can see it got the first IP address from our DHCP, right? Because we set from 20 to 40, so it got the IP address. Now we want to set it up so that we can connect to our devices, right? So I would say the first thing to do would be to go to our wireless LAN controller and go to the wireless LAN tab, and then click on the Wi-Fi, the number. You see it's blue, it's highlighted blue. You click on that, it will open the sub menu to that. Now down here you can see we have we can change the profile name and just call it finance, right? I'll call it finance, but I'll leave the SSID as Fin Wi-Fi. Now we go to the security. Okay, let's go back here. I just want to apply before finance. Let's apply before we go to security. Then we go to security. Now this is where we're not going to change anything here because we already created everything earlier on, the passphrase and all that, right? But this is where you change it if you need to change it. So at this point we are done with the setting up of our wireless our finance Wi-Fi, right? Our finance Wi-Fi is done. So all we need to do is now to connect the devices. So this is our laptop. As you can see, we have the side view of the laptop. But remember, in this case, our laptop does not have a Wi-Fi adapter on it. This specific laptop, as you can see, it uses the wired connection, the RJ45 adapter. So we're gonna switch off the device, remove the card because that's the wrong card, and then we're going to put in the WPC 300N, which is this device over here. As you can see, as you change the tabs, this thing changes here. So you're going to click on the WPC 300N, and then you're going to throw it on that hole and switch on the PC. So the wireless card, the wireless interface is now up and running. However, we still have to do more configuration. So I'll minimize the window so that we see everything clearly. So now we're going to go to the config side of things. We go to wireless 0, and if you look at the SSID, which is the most crucial part of this exercise, it reads default. So as a result, it cannot pick up our wireless network, which is Fin-Fi, right? Fin Wi-Fi, right? Remember we said it's gonna be Fin Wi-Fi. So now that we did that, we also need to come here and choose authentication type, which is gonna be the WPA2 PSK, and it wants us to put in the phrase or the password, it should match the password we created on the wireless LAN controller. So we're going to go out, and this device should now connect, and indeed it does, right? It connects. So we're going to do the same thing with this laptop over here. We are going to say we are going to go to the config, or rather the physical. Then if we do the same thing, we go to config, wireless 0, change default to fin Wi-Fi. It's caps lock sensitive, so make sure you type it as is on the wireless LAN controller, or else it won't recognize the network. We should have a connection. There you go, it connects. And also another thing, if you go to the device and you look, this is the desktop, you go to the IP configuration, you will see that we are getting the IP addressing, DHCP IP addressing, which is the 24, and this should be somewhere close to 24, maybe 23 or 25. Let's see, desktop IP config. Yes, you see we have 25 over there. So the DHCP is working just as predicted, and all these devices are getting DHCP addressing from this device. Thank you for joining me. See you guys again on the next video.